Welcome back to the Mini Kaiju Bio Classroom, students. It's always exciting to look at a kaiju from the original Ultraman series, so today I thought I'd treat you all to a bio on the green, dragon-like, and yet also horse-like, four-legged kaiju Dodongo from the 12th episode of Ultraman, not to be confused with the Legend of Zelda boss from many years later. We're in for a wild ride, so let's saddle up and gallop into some behind-the-scenes history. Dodongo's first, and to this day only, major appearance was in the episode Cry of the Mummy, which was written by Keisuke Fujikawa. Toll Narita, who was in charge of all the early Ultramonster designs, designed Dodongo as well, but interestingly his initial sketch for the monster was quite a bit different than what the monster ended up looking like. The kaiju was at first supposed to look like the living skeleton of a Dimetrodon, which actually makes some sense when you think about it, since Dodongo is supposed to be the companion of the Mummy Man, an intelligent creature from ancient times. This version of Dodongo was based on early concept art for Gezura, apparently. But for whatever reason, someone decided against using this artwork, and it was temporarily discarded before being used as the design for Gavidon B, after some alterations. So, it was back to the drawing table for Toll Narita, and he ended up creating this artwork instead, based apparently on the Qilin, a mythical monster from Chinese legends that looks like a dragon combined with a horse, or some other four-legged creature like a deer. Pretty ambitious design here. I can see how a suit sculptor would be hesitant to tackle creating this complicated creature. But Ryosaku Takayama wasn't fazed. Well, maybe he was, but it doesn't matter because he modeled the monster anyway. All the complicated designs on the monster's body were apparently created by clipping urethane material, which I assume was rather sponge-like, since sponges are made with polyurethane foam, with scissors. The suit ended up being rather tall, so the set Dodongo would be rampaging on had to be lowered into the floor by a meter, to make sure the boundaries of the set couldn't be seen when Tsuburaya Productions filmed the monster in motion. Speaking of the monster being in motion, let's look at the two suit actors that played Dodongo. Wait, two suit actors? That's right, Dodongo was the first ever Ultra Series monster costume to be piloted by two people at once, that duo being Yukihiro Seno and Teruo Aragaki, the same pair that later brought Pestar to life, as you'll remember. Pestar was a nightmare to play, and according to one source, bringing Dodongo to life was a difficult process as well. The staff apparently used the phrase "Donto Yaroze," hopefully I pronounced that right, basically meaning "let's do it," to pump themselves up enough to push on through their difficulties. And believe it or not, that phrase actually ended up inspiring Dodongo's name. Fun little factoid there. And here's another one. Dodongo's roars are actually the sped-up cries of Anguirus from the Godzilla series. Mothra's chirps were created in the same way, so these two monsters sound very similar. However, the Mothra shrieks also have some Rodan cries mixed in there too, so if you listen carefully, you can tell the two beasts apart. Interesting how so many Toho and Tsuburaya kaiju reuse roars, huh? Alright, ready to study the mummy monster's actual role in the show, students? Okay then, Donto Yaroze! Dodongo's presence was first hinted at by this cave painting the SSSP briefly examined at the beginning of the episode, which was in the same cave as the supposedly dead body of the kaijin we all know as Mummy Man. The next day, as a large group of policemen did their best to try and capture the actually not dead Mummy Man alive, the creepy beast let out a roar, which caused the cave he had been discovered in to begin to rumble. Just as the Mummy Man met his end, Dodongo suddenly burst forth from the Oninodai Hills, having been awakened by the cry of the mummy.
He said the thing! He said the name of the episode! Wow! Poof!
I'm kind of curious exactly where Dodongo came from. Did the mural in the cave actually transform into the monster? If so, that's fascinating, because Gavidon, who I mentioned earlier, enters our world by popping out of artwork as well. Maybe these two monsters are related in some way in universe. I doubt Tsuburaya Productions intended them to be connected, but I still think there's room to construct a fun fan theory from this possible similarity. Anyway, Mummy Man's companion monster waltzed out from wherever he'd been hanging out, and chased away a group of people who'd been in the mummy's cave. The SSSP headed out to combat Dodongo, and came to the realization that this kaiju probably wanted to make its way to Tokyo, to save the Mummy Man, even though he was already dead. They spotted Dodongo near a chemical factory, right before it galloped into a high-up bridge and broke it, with some difficulty. Come on, Dodongo, you've got this. With the SSSP still not ready to engage him, Dodongo fired 2 beams of electricity from his eyes, very similar to those of the Mummy Man, which hit a structure and caused a major fire to break out in the plant. A second blast followed, and then a third. "What's taking so long, SSSP?" After the damage had already been done, Arashi pointed out that they could aim for the creature's eyes, so it couldn't fire any more electricity. Which, when you think about it, is a pretty good idea. But getting close enough to take a shot would prove to be a challenge. Or at least it would have, but luckily they had access to a new invention called the Barrier Machine that Ide had created, that could grant one person immunity to Dodongo's beams. Arashi donned the invention and approached the monster, and successfully landed a hit on one of the monster's eyes. Dodongo retaliated, but Arashi was totally safe thanks to Ide's invention. Well, not totally safe. It seems the barrier only nullified the beam if the monster landed a direct hit. So Arashi was actually still in danger. The rest of the team rushed out to provide him backup, but their attacks didn't do much other than annoy the creature. They were unable to save Arashi, who was knocked out by a small explosion, but Ide was able to take the spider shot from him and fire at Dodongo's other eye, and the kaiju was now no longer able to fire his beams, and was blind as well. It stumbled about, slamming into buildings, unable to tell where it was going. Debris was sent flying in the SSSP's direction, which led to Hayata transforming into Ultraman to try and finish the kaiju off and end the threat it posed. Or, at least that's what I would have thought, but it looks like he actually just wanted to go for a ride. What exactly are you trying to accomplish here, Ultraman? I guess maybe he just really wanted to join a rodeo, and now that he'd mastered bullfighting, he decided to get into bull riding too. Or something. But surely he wasn't just trying to have some fun at a blind monster's expense, right? That's only something Redman would do. But Ultraman's name was going to be Redman. No, that's it. I'm not thinking about this anymore. I think Ultraman was just trying to tame Dodongo, or somehow fight him from his back. Yeah, that's it. Moving on. Ultraman was knocked off his trusty steed, but was able to dodge Dodongo's attack and grab the monster. But the powerful creature shook its neck back and forth and was able to fling the hero away. At this point, Ultraman decided to finish the monster off with his Spacium beam, but he initially hesitated to do so for some reason. I like to think it was because he felt bad for the beast. Ultimately, though, I guess he figured landing the finishing blow was the right move. The monster struggled for a moment after being hit, and then eventually went still. The episode ended on a sad note, as the SSSP lamented that Dodongo and the Mummy Man had to be finished off. Luckily, though, we don't have to be sad about this, because we can just move on to Dodongo's next major appearance. Oh, right, there aren't any more. Well, what about minor appearances? Any of those? Okay, great, we've got a few. Let's move on. Dodongo was featured in Chapter 4 of Ultraman Orb Chronicle, and was defeated by Ultraman Orb, but his Kaiju card was later used to awaken Magagatanathor. He showed up in the movie Revive Ultraman via stock footage, and was one of the many monsters that made up Belyudra from Ultra Galaxy Legends the movie. He was also present in a manga by Kazuo Umezu, in which he cried at Mummy Man's death and sought revenge, and is present on this Rise of Ultraman comic book cover. He was also featured in the third Mega Monster Battle game, and fought Ultraman Dyna in a 2001 Ultraman stage show. He's also been featured in these pieces of art that I assume were published in books, which depict him flying in one case and breathing black smoke in another, 2 moves the creature never got to use in the show. Also, if you ever wondered what Dodongo's anatomy looked like, now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Now, you're probably expecting me to look at Dodongo toys next. And you would be correct. What a well thought out guess on your part. Ever wanted a Dodongo beer mug? Well, they exist. This piece of merch was actually designed to resemble the mugs of the Japanese company Kirin Brewery, which have a Chilin, the mythical creature Dodongo is based on the front. Gotta love the typo that accidentally references Dodongo being played by 2 people. I saw a pretty wide assortment of different Dodongo figures on eBay, including this Ultra Monster series figure being sold by a seller I highly recommend. Let's just say I know him really well. You could check out his toys for sale by clicking the link in the description. In addition to this one that's still up for sale at the time I'm making this video, I also have another one in my personal collection. Nice vintage kaiju toy. What's your favorite Dodongo figure, students? Okay, looks like we're coming to the end for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, follow me on X at the Toku Prof, and click the link to my Teespring store in the description to check out Toku Professor shirts, hoodies, etc. And I guess that's everything. It was fun getting to look at Cry of the Mummy. Too bad it's all over now.
Oh, I wouldn't be so sure about that, Professor.
What? Huh? Who's there?
Beware of the mummy.
This isn't good. Everyone quick, we have to get out of here.
You guys
Get
out
out of here. I have to flee too. Come here, boy. Attaboy, Dodo. All right, I'm ready. Donto Yorose. The mummy man is coming. The mummy man is coming.
I will have my revenge.